reading from Luke chapter 5, verse 27 to 32. After this, Jesus went out and saw a tax collector by the name of Levi, sitting at this tax booth. "Follow me," Jesus said to him, and Levi got up, left everything, and followed him. Then Levi held a great banquet for Jesus at his house, and a large crowd of tax collectors and others were eating with them. But the Pharisees and the teachers of the law, who belonged to the sect, complained to the disciples, "Why do you eat and drink with tax collectors and sinners?" Jesus answered them, "It is not the healthy who need a doctor, but the sick. I have not come to call the neighbours, but sinners to repentance." Sorry, not come to call the righteous, but the sinners to repentance. It might have been neighbours as well.
Well, wasn't that a wonderful worship experience? My hands got all sweaty. I think that's a sign of the Spirit of God is here in our midst. I asked Esther if we could sing that Waymaker song, and I didn't know how it was just going to fit. I had a sense that it was appropriate to sing that this morning because it sums up a little bit about what our heart is for this church and for this community. Sorry, got a bit emotional. And then Pat stands up and prays, and that wonderful prayer, and Esther continues with that song about Jesus, oh Jesus, and just isn't it an amazing experience when all of these different elements that have all come together in this place this morning for us to praise God and glorify Him and celebrate what He's doing in our church and in our community. In January 2010, I was offered a small role in the church to work alongside the parish staff, and it had three goals. One was to establish a strong volunteer base throughout the parish, and second one was to look at ways that the church could engage with the wider community, and the third one was to build positive working relationships with other local community agencies. And so to establish a strong volunteer base throughout the parish, if you've read through this annual report that we circulated a few weeks ago, I think you'll see that it reflects a strong volunteer base that's been developed in this parish over the last few years. And I want to acknowledge this morning all of you who have been part of that, because that's who and what this church is. And it's simply amazing to see how many people in our community our church touches and connects with. And to all you folk who operate under the radar, doing lots of jobs around the place, sometimes without even being asked, thank you. It makes us a wonderful family to belong to. The second point was to look at ways the church could engage with the wider community. And in 2010, we spent a period of about 12 months fact-finding. We had visits and consulted with a number of churches and community trusts around the country. And it was also amazing to see and learn what churches were doing in some of these communities. About that same time, Anne Overton, who is the church community support person working with Presbyterian Support, she spoke here at a quarterly presbytery meeting that was hosted by our church, and she talked about how Presbyterian Support were helping churches through the Auckland region set up community programs, particularly around providing dementia care, respite care for people and people faced with dementia. And that got my attention because at that number of times there was a number of families in our church who were going through those challenging times, and I thought this might be a connection point that we could use to meet with our community. And I arranged for Anne to come and speak to a group of people from our church who were interested in respite work and community care. And so she came up one day. A group of 10 or 12 people came to that meeting, and after some discussion, she posed the question. She said, instead of pursuing some new venture, she said, what have you already got in your hands? And we thought about that for a little while, and then we said, well, this is what we've got in our hands. For about 2 years, on Sunday afternoons, a group from our church had been holding English language classes for new immigrants. And that had been begun initially as a response to the church-wide home group study series, 40 Days of Community, that some of you will remember. And one home group had decided that running an English language class would be their practical response as a way to serve the community. And the class had rolled on past those initial 40 days and had been going on for about 2 years. And new immigrants to the area just kept finding their ways to the church on Sunday afternoons, mostly through word of mouth. And this morning it's appropriate to acknowledge Jonathan and Kathy Lee and Jean Nicholson and Mari Antisich and the team of volunteers who prepared lessons and turned up every Sunday afternoon to provide and teach English language classes during those years. And today we have Mahu Vision Community Trust that's grown and developed from that home group initiative. And for those who've read the AGM report publication, you'll appreciate the reach and the scope of the church today through the trust. And you've already heard some stories from Sarah this morning of how the impact is through the community and through the schools. It was interesting that one of the forums that we had down at the college, there was about 20 people that came, and there was teachers and teacher aides and community support people, and I think there was around a group of about 20 people met down there. And when I counted up, more than half of them had a connection with our church, and in some ways, and so I think that was actually really special. It's building positive working relationships with local community groups and employers and agencies, and some of the groups and agencies we now have, we now work with Home Builders and the Women's Centre, DePaul House, who manage transitional housing up here in Warkworth, Springboard, of course, the District Health Nurse, the Plunkett, the Warkworth and Wellsford Police, the local iwi Ngāti Manahiri, Vision West, the Christians Against Poverty organisation, Presbyterian Support, which we're still in contact with, local politicians, the local schools and churches, the Warkworth Rotary and Lions Food Rescue Service, Kiwi Harvest, which is a food rescue service from the North Shore, and as Sarah mentioned, Massey University Albany campus, and more recently Ministry of Social Development and the Ministry of Pacific Peoples. And so what started as just connecting with communities just growing and growing, and I'll share a little bit more shortly about some of the other developments that are happening. But I'm going to invite Rosanna to come now, and she's going to share a few stories about the impact that this is making with people's lives in our community. Thanks, Rosanna.
Good morning, family. Lovely to see so many back here. Feel a bit more connected again. It's wonderful. Well, I have to say it's been a real joy and a privilege working in the job I'm in now 7 years, and have got to know a lot of the Pacifica families. Stephanie did a great job in starting this whole thing, and we worked together well, and now I can say that I'm very excited about what I see is happening in our Pacifica community. Lots of promising things are beginning to happen. The future looks even more exciting. I started off working 2 days a week, now I'm doing 4 days a week. I've got more people helping, but it seems it's just growing and increasing which is wonderful and exciting. So some of the stories that I'd like to share with you this morning primarily are around empowering families and seeing women in the families growing in confidence, which I'm just so excited about, which of course impacts the whole family. Where do I start? I guess what Sarah had shared about, the tall poppy syndrome that we have here in New Zealand as New Zealanders, it's also in the Pacific community, and perhaps even more so. So it's a bit of a challenge to rise above that and think, I can do this. But I love to see what I'm seeing now. I'm seeing more and more Pacifica people, women growing more confident within themselves, beginning to believe themselves. It's a great thing when we come alongside each other and encourage and support. And I'm seeing and I'm listening to couples and ladies one-on-one, or when I'm talking to couples, they're beginning to dream because they know something more than working from 9 to 5 to earn money to put food on the table. There's more to it than that. They're beginning to see, actually, we can actually dream about retraining, and that's something I'm quite passionate about. And I have some of the young women in our community who are dreaming about, they're actually doing ESOL training right now because they want to get their English really under the belt so they can go to further studies, like at Massey University, like doing social work or nursing or preschool or primary school teaching, beginning to realise, actually, I can dream. Where is my passion? What do I love to do? This is what I want to pursue. And it's my privilege to come alongside these amazing people and just say, you can do it. I'm with you 100%. This can be achieved. And it's beginning, and I'm so excited about it. And one couple I actually spoke to, the husband realised he's supporting his wife completely in her dream, and he realised that once she achieves what she wants, and she's got that job, that he could actually take time to do an adult apprenticeship, in something he would love to do. And it's like catching the dream, so to speak, and the community's coming alive. And I've heard Ray and Moy talk about, the closeness in the Kiribati community here in particular is actually quite vibrant. It's quite unique, and I love that, because this is the biggest community of Kiribati folk in New Zealand. So the opportunity for something big to grow from this is tangibly there, and things have begun, which is great. And that also, when I say Kiribati are the greatest Pacifica community here, and there's also Tuvalu, Tongan, Samoan, and I work with any family that needs that kind of support, advocacy and encouragement, and I just love to see what's happening. There's when I was working supporting Heidi at the Women's Centre, we came with a lot of ideas and seeing women growing and ideas coming out of that, and it's my joy to see that one of those things is still going, which is they wanted to have something where they could take their children to just play volleyball, and that's actually happening on a Saturday night now. And I'm really chuffed because Kevin and I were able to fund to actually get the materials they need, and that's continuing. So I'm just thrilled about that. That's another area of encouragement, achievement, confidence, growing in mums and their children, and it just, I don't know, I'm just really excited about the whole thing, to see some good stuff happening, some good groundwork being established so that people feel supported, feel empowered and strengthened, and yes, I can do this, we can do this as a community. Another thing that I've heard recently is there's a group of ladies decided, you know what, we're going to work this, we're going to do fitness and weight loss, and they're doing it all on their own. Again, it was something that began in the Women's Centre, must have got inspired over there, and they're going for it, and they're having such a blast. And it's my joy to watch them and to see who's lost the most weight this week and who's getting fitter and all of that. So there's that kind of thing going on, as well as meeting families that I've met through Moy, families that I haven't met before, and some wonderful things happening in there. There's just amazing opportunities, and that's the thing that I love, just speak life into these, into the ladies in particular, and helping them to believe in themselves, and then seeing them up and running, and actually they're doing it for themselves. It's very exciting. And the children, the young people, because the couple I was referring to who I spoke to, where the husband's going, you know what, I'm supporting my wife 100%. Once she's done, I'm doing it. And then the penny dropped. They looked at each other and they went, our children are watching us. I said, yeah. And your children are watching you, and they will achieve too. And that's exciting, isn't it? And then last week, it was a real hope, because Moy has been, some ladies have been wanting CVs being done for them, etc. And there was a little group developed there, because within the Pacifica way of being, everything's done in groups, which I actually really love, because there's that kind of connectedness, that sense of fun. And so there was a bunch of them wanted to go to vote as a group. So they all said, can you come with us, Rosanna? I'm going, oh, okay, rightio. So off we all went on Thursday, and two of the ladies, it was the first time they were to vote. And so, we all had a little bit of a chat. This is how you do, this is what you'll be given, etc., etc. So they've got an idea of what everything was about. And we all wandered off. Some walked down, others drove down, and we all got together. And we took, everyone went in and took their turn, because you had to sort of space it. Well, everybody knows about that. So we did all that. And there were several with their little ones. And of course, the voting ladies were, oh, can I have that baby? And no, it's my turn now. That kind of thing was happening. It was just gorgeous. And then when the ladies had finished voting, the last lady was in the voting area. All the women who were helpers stood up and clapped, applauded the Pacifica ladies who had come as a group to vote. And then one came outside with me, where she had a little fella, because I wanted to take a photo of the little guy, and she clapped the ladies that were outside. So it was such a buzz. And I said, you know what, girls, I'm going to shout everyone fish and chips, let's go and celebrate. And so somebody else went and bought some water, and we had a lovely time. And that's the joy of it. You see, that's the joy of Pacifica. And I sort of, as I said earlier on, it dawned on me, Pacifica and Māori have a heart space people, and relational, and love to be in a group, which I love. European, Western is more about the individual, and there's strength and goodness in both. But I'm thinking, I think our Father in heaven wants to bring the two together. I don't know what it's going to be looking like, because it's beyond our comprehension, but I just say, bring it on, Father. I also wanted to say that Melissa's doing a great job with the after school care, the young children who are coming there. If there's anyone who wants to come and support as volunteers, please come. I also had the joy of meeting another young woman during the week. We were chatting about various things, and she's volunteered now to come there, and she's so excited because she's realised that's where her calling is. So that just happened last week, and it continues. So remember, guys, we're all in this together. I don't want to just tell you stories. I actually would love to see you come on board more and be part of this, because it's fun, and it's wonderful, and it's so exciting to see young people dream dreams and start to pursue their dreams, and parents supporting them, and good stuff happening. So that's me.
We could spend all day here telling you stories of how God is opening doors and blessing people's, and through lives being touched through the influence and the outreach of this church community. And isn't that what it's all about? We in the first service we sang the old hymn, "What a friend we have in Jesus," and I shared with the people, isn't that part of what our mission is, to have Jesus become everybody's friend, so you can take your cares and worries and everything to God in prayer. The future opportunities here are amazing, and just click through these, Bill, and quickly. The expansion of social services is quite phenomenal, and just recently we've been in discussions with the Department of Social Development, and they came to us and said, how can we help you expand what you're doing here in this community? And we've heard and seen what you're doing, and so, we're looking at expanding counselling service and domestic violence interventions with budgeting and emergency and transitional housing and advocacy and support for aged people and home helps and companionship and transport, and it goes on and on and on. And so it's, quite scary, really, for me who keeps thinking about maybe it's time, I became a senior citizen. But this is, these opportunities are here, and God is saying, we started with that question, what's in your hand? And this is what God is putting in our hand. So would you, as a church, pray with us that that this God is in this and is leading us into these areas, that we can be the church in the fullest sense in this community. And I just, in conclusion today, I just want to remind ourselves, what this is about. That this trust, this community trust, is the Mahu Church. And to use the illustration that Nick mentioned, used from a sermon a few months ago, it was the trust is one of the many colours the church becomes when seen through a prism. And the establishment of the trust, is become much more than just to engage with the community. And I've said this before, and I think it's worth repeating. It's a demonstration of what it means for your kingdom to come on earth as it is in heaven. That we so often pray for. And I'm told that a literal translation of the Greek is "May the kingdom of you," with a capital Y, come to pass on earth as it is in heaven. So that's the kingdom of you, God, rather than the kingdom of me. And the Bible teacher John Ortberg puts it like this. He said, God, make up there, come down here. And we do this when we take the light of God's kingdom into the dark world, when we speak words of life where there's death, when we bring hope where there's no hope, when we feed the hungry, when we take care of the children, the poor and the vulnerable. And with God's blessing and your support, we can continue to do this, to see God's kingdom come on earth as it is in heaven. So, if you would like to, as Rosanna said, to become more involved or be a part of what we're doing. I know lots of you are already doing things in your own right in our community, but if God's been speaking to you this morning and you say, hey, I want to be a part, how can I help in some other ways, come and speak with myself or Sarah or Rosanna, and we'd be happy to share with you. Let's pass to Nick.
So, thanks for that, Roger and team. That was that good? It's pretty good. Just we close. I just wanted to kind of. I had a mini sermon set aside, but now I can do that next week, which is awesome. But what I did want to just close with one little thought, and that's love changes things. And what these guys have been talking about is actually, as a church, we're sharing the love of God with the people around us. There's people within the church, people outside the church, but when people encounter love, you don't kind of come out of that the same. And that just has an impact on the whole of our church ministry. Funnily enough, I was filling out my, I've got a little register of everyone who's been baptised, came from many years ago. And so as I was doing that this week and putting everyone's names in, I thought, I wonder how many have we had? How many people have been baptised? And since I've been here, and so I did the little count, we had about 72, which it kind of adds up, doesn't it? But I mean, we can do better, but that's doing well. And then I thought, well, I wonder how many people who've come to know Jesus through these particular ministries, the community work, and through the youth. and that was 70%. So the way we love actually has not just helps people kind of have vision and hope for now, it actually has an eternal outworking as well. So I thought that was really encouraging. And so you guys, you're doing an awesome work. And there are those involved in trust. There's a whole bunch of other areas though, like pastoral, mainly music, visiting rest home centres. You guys are involved in heaps. So don't ever think that doesn't matter, because it does. And God uses that.